discussion. I'm going to put Stephen in the hot seat because he again is the voice of the customer. Stephen, this must come for some discounts or something, right? I don't know.
I'm watching it.
But when an organization like a tTech comes and knocks on your door, and we're out there trying to bring the awareness, we're trying to shine the light and saying, here is something that an organization should do, whether it's cybersecurity awareness or it's any sort of creation of cybersecurity policy. We find pushback from many businesses. It's almost like insurance, where they say, "Look, nothing will happen. I don't think it's going to happen to me." Is it a financial? It's not a business decision, but what, from your standpoint, do you think why people push back or people delay in making a decision to do anything on cybersecurity?
I think there is a naivety. I mean, if I think back on our business, a couple of years ago we might have one incident, 2 incidents a year. There were minor things, little phishing things that were obvious. And I mean, this week alone I've seen 3, right? And as I said, we've had the lucky virus. And I think it's when you get hit, it's when you realize how much it costs you. Because there's a series of costs. There's the actual extortion, but there's the cost to get back your data. And it's only when you get hit that you realize that, oops, all my data wasn't being backed up the way it was supposed to be. My managers and my staff weren't doing what they were supposed to, so we're missing 2 days here, or this piece of software wasn't doing it, or the IT provider hadn't really gotten the offsite thing working. And so we didn't lose any money for extortion, we lost about 2 weeks of productivity and had to build back everything. And when you look at that cost, you realize, it's like I tell people, if I look at a power cut in my office for 3 hours in the afternoon, it's inconvenient, but the reality is I have to send people home if I don't have a generator. So it's not what the generator costs me, it's what not having the generator costs me. And it's the same thing we come back to. It's whenever we have an incident, as I said, a senior manager today, there's a trail of emails, pay this person, and they do it very gently. They don't just say pay the person, they reel you in, right? And then the first time it happened, they prepared a check for thousands of US dollars. Luckily, we had a manual system that stopped it, but it was so good that we didn't pick it up, right? And so the question I'd ask is, if a tTech comes to you and says, we're going to charge you X to provide this, and you say, oh, that's a lot of money, you have to ask yourself the other question.
Cost of inaction. Cost of inaction, that was the word? The cost of inaction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because as you said, it's simple as somebody clicking on some new staff member who's not been educated, clicking on a link, you're gone, in trouble, right? And I think you have to always ask yourself, what's the cost of inaction, as you said.
Dr. Hugh Williams, you have been called to many scenes, or you have been brought many computers to check out, so to speak. What is the first thing that pops to your mind for overall the majority of these incidents that you see that make you do that sigh, that make you say, why this person didn't do? Is it one thing? Is it a bunch of things that come to your mind first?
Yeah, you're putting me on the spot. Think like a criminal, right? Well, indeed, you're correct. Say for instance, lottery scammer. They're normally having a slew of digital devices, and sometimes you have to do an examination of all of this, which takes a lot of time because as the storage capacity increases, it costs the government more now, in the sense that we have to have more human resource, trained personnel and the trained personnel are not staying with us for too long, right? As their trained levels go up, right? Right. So the court is breathing down our necks. Like Georgia too will be breathing down our necks as a private practice person, yeah, to have these cases prepared. So a lot of things go through your head in terms of time bound, in terms of the right equipment and tool to process all of these devices. So it makes you think, and you try to pressure your bosses and government to provide resources, but like my colleague is saying here, like other companies, they push it aside and say, important but not so important until you're hit. And as, Dr. William will say,
So therefore, then, approximately how much, what percent you think you get versus what you not get? How much do you think people actually come to you and say, I have a problem?
we believe it's about 10%. Because as we talk about reputational damage, as Trent Michael would have said, we strongly believe
You want to get 10% people coming to you to complain
to
about something.
report the cases. We want to include in our legislation as a compulsory that once you're impacted, it must be reported. Because that is how we now look at the trend.
Lawyers are come back clapping,
It's more money for them. Now we know are able to look at the trend and plan, the correct strategies of how to deal with these. And of course, your company will know of what is happening out there. And of course, come up with the right
You're
Yeah, I was going to say I didn't report. I didn't know who to report to, right? And the other question I would ask both of you is there a plan to put a system in place so that when tTech is aware of a set of incidents that you report it up so the data is collected?
Dr. Yulan, I think that question might be for CERT. Is there something in place that, or I don't know, the lawyers can tell us if there anything in the act that will force us to, because that question came up this last week. I think we had some debate last week. Is there something that's coming up to force us to report?
The data breach, yeah, the
Data protection
breach,
bill is
yes,
still-
for the data breaches and so forth. In terms of other cyber crimes or cyber incidents, what we are trying to do is just make it easier to be reported, and hopefully more people would report, because now they complain about having to email or to call. So a portal should be online soon where you could just go and record that, put in a report, or if you just want to tell us about it, whichever way, so that will facilitate that.
I think too, we need to increase public awareness, which is we work in partnership with CERT. Only that is done only in the month of November, because we try to work with the US. But if we do it a little more often, then we believe the public will be aware of the area or place where they'll, make their reports.
Opening the floor for questions to our panel. Anyone on the panel? We have rolling mics right there, so just hands up. Anyone has a question? Yellow, short right there.
Hi, afternoon again. This question is for anyone. Do you think that the publishing or greater publishing of data on cyber crimes, the costs and the prevalence would be a driving force to get more organizations to be more proactive?
Well, that's kind of difficult to answer in the sense that it might be frightening so that companies can be aware of what is happening, but what happens if a company doesn't want, say for instance, I won't call a name, there's a run on it. You know that cases are being reported, and the urge is that you are now being exposed, that you are being attacked. Maybe you, as a customer, and other customers may want to have a run and, withdraw your funds from the sector.
Well, not necessarily naming names, but
Right.
just to make it more aware that, for example, we're having over 200 cases and losing over $200 million, and that's just 10% estimated of it. Do you think that reporting that information without actually pointing the fingers who is being attacked will drive more importance into security?
From a national security standpoint, and you have to be very careful. You have to be careful of the information you disseminate, because you don't want to send the public in panic. So it's all for our bosses, the commissioner, to determine what sort of information do you put into the public space as to what you sort of preserve it and try to deal with it internally?
If I may respond, this is not necessarily a force for that, because yes, you will scare them, but you will scare them into being more protective. So it works that way. But they won't necessarily report. I say that because I remember giving a presentation about the 100 million, and the media was all over it. And people were, yes, concerned, persons were frightened, but it didn't push people to report more. But what it did facilitate was for persons to put measures in place now to protect themselves, because they realized it was real and that it involved money.
Yes, afternoon again. I have a follow-up question, similar to what you asked. Is there anything in place in form of, say, a public advisor forum that would, say, send out advisors to the general business environment to say, hey, we are seeing trends in these areas, probably some steps we can take to protect the system? I just think that may be a contributing factor towards public education in general.
Okay, at the risk of spamming you. Yes, we do send out advisories from the CERT, but for the public sector, it's mandatory that you will get it if you're in IT. But for persons outside of government, it's on a request basis. So you have some companies who have called us, emailed us, have seen me, given me their details and say, look, we want these advisories, please send it to us. In that case, yes, we do send it out, but it's mainly within government, and for persons outside, it's because they have requested it.
So it's almost like what happened, I guess, last week before last, with many requesting the Ministry of Health for not advising that we had flu H1N1 in Jamaica. You're saying, let me know. And some persons might have saying, look, you might cause panic. So we have to, there's a delicate line and delicate balance as to what's going on. But globally, the fact is that if you have any access to global media, it's coming in droves. The reports of any cyber incident, it's just always there. Question.
Yes. Given the human element, we know that no one is really immune to attacks. Do you think that it is important for companies or whoever works on in the cyberspace to invest in IDS, in intrusion detection systems? And if yes, what are some of the good ones you would recommend given your job?
The biggest the first investment that should be made is cybersecurity awareness training, because you started out right. It is a human element is the biggest cause of the biggest issue with respect to cybersecurity. We're a vendor agnostic organization. I'm speaking my tTech hat on, so I'm not going to make any recommendations for any specific IDS systems or solutions. We have worked with a number, but we believe first and foremost with cybersecurity awareness training. And if that is done, and that is done regularly, most of the risk-averse organizations and the organizations that have heavy corporate governance on them, almost all of them have a mandatory cybersecurity awareness training for their staff, whether it's 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 staff members, or 100 staff members, and or some of their vendors. We, in fact, as tTech, we have a number of customers, a couple dozen customers that have solutions that we have to be compliant in. I mean, without giving away too much. But the fact is that I think the biggest consideration should be for cybersecurity awareness training. I mean, definitely. Who has an organization with 5 or 10 people or any number? Once you have more than 5, because after a while the network effect is what causes the biggest problem. You should have cybersecurity awareness training happening in the organization. It should be mandatory. Anyone wants to weigh in on that question? Okay, agree? Done. Okay, they agree. Who else has a mic? No. Or okay. All right, folks. Okay, right here.
Selvin there again. I was thinking about the role of both CERT and the security incident response team as it relates to alignment with government. They talk, I remember you talking about a number of processes in your architecture, one which required the technical measures, etc. Now, I have evidence that a lot of government entities are still running XP. Now, this is one primary weakness as it relates to any form of understanding of security within IT. Now, if you are, I agree that there is a mandatory awareness, but how does this overlap with the implementation of security-based patches, etc., alignment to government? Speaking of government, initially, because there is no law to say that you can do this outside, but speaking of government initially, how your stuff aligned with government in terms of implementation?
Okay, we are government, and I think that a lot is a bit overstated. But yes, we still have a few agencies that have XP. In terms of patches, we send them out. It comes from, because we are the cyber incident response team. We're a government entity and we're mainly responsible for government. So the patches are incumbent on us to send them out. However, you find, again, human factor. And so you're going to ask now, how do you patch XP? But you'll find also that the companies, the organizations, the MDAs that are running XP would have had other machines. We found out about XP, especially during WannaCry, because when I started pushing the patches and the updates out, someone said, we need to push the XP once, because that was the once in a while patch that we got for XP, and then we realized, and we have responded to incidents, gone in and realized that you have XP. With governments, yes, you will always have that challenge, because the challenge of resources, money, etc. Some persons are not up to date. But I wouldn't say it's a lot. It's something that we have been addressing and is being addressed by the CIO's office. And persons are in the process of upgrading from XP. But also, I know you're bashing us, but we also know that there are certain other entities that are using XP, which was one of the problems that we had with WannaCry, which is why WannaCry spread the way it did, because we have some critical infrastructure that are still using that. That is a problem. It's a matter of resources, and we all know that the companies will use different versions because they want people to upgrade, and then the money comes into play. So we have to look at all the factors impacting that. In terms of alignment, I think you probably wanted to know how Warren's unit and my unit differ. So we work with central government, they are police. Basically, we are not police, they are. So there are incidents, as I would have alluded to in my presentation, that are not necessarily criminal. And so those we would investigate and we deal with. The moment, so for example, something happened that we thought was just a run-of-the-mill administrative problem, and when we go in, we realize, no, this is deeper. This may involve fraud, this involves money moving. Right away, we would have done our documentation, elevate, and now Warren would come in and take over such an investigation. Have I answered your alignment question? Or you still want to bash me with the XP?
Friday afternoon.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Any more questions out there? So the mic's still roving. No? Okay, good. Folks, thank you very much. And I'm going to just ask each person for a last word of recommendation. Warren, I don't know if you have a last word of recommendation, and then Stephen, and then leave the best for last. You then.
We might want to say be socially aware, but be digitally aware, and you need to, browse with care. Now that we're moving even deeper into the smarter era, the smart cities, they are coming, they are here. We have to be cognizant that, listen, if we should leave our homes tomorrow, right, Ellen, if you should leave your home tomorrow with your smart device, will you turn back for it? You'll turn back for it. You just can't do without it. So our entire life is on our digital device. all our devices will be now connected, which means once I get access to any of your device, once there's a vulnerable point, as my colleague says, just buy an air condition. It's a smart air condition. Once I get into all your systems that are connected, I now have access to your sensitive information. It may mean I would have to trip a GPS switch and burn down your house. Be careful. Or get into your account, which your grandmother died and left $100 million. I just transfer that with ease. Be careful. Be aware, and you need to share with care.
My input is to warn you all that the world is changing very fast. That whatever you have today is not appropriate for tomorrow. You have software changing, you have new technologies, IoTs, as they said, air conditioning, now smart Wi-Fi systems. But you also have a different, your new employees are millennials or Gen Ys, and they are completely different. They're highly dependent on the smart devices. You know, those of us who have teenagers keep trying to warn our kids, guys, any pictures that you take, delete it all you want, it's still there forever. So we want a lot of education. Chris said education, it's also a new type of education. We don't want the social media here. We'd like you to have social media. Be careful with it, try not to use it here, but it's just exponential. That's my warning.
Okay, my word is that we're living in the digital age and we just have to adapt our minds to dealing with it. Don't try to hide from it, don't try to get away from it. Just become more aware and survive. Back in the days, we used to deal with life as it comes. It's a new era, it's a new age. So we just need to now instead of just being safe, we have to be cyber safe, and we need to just stop and think about things before we do them. So stop and think before you click on anything.
Thank you very, very much. And before I invite someone to give these lovely panelists a gift, I want to ask everyone to pick up a copy of the periodic table. Now, what is this periodic table? We mentioned we had our guest from Infotech Research Group. Infotech is the world's largest, fastest growing IT research organization. They have done a detailed set of research, and this is the one sheet. I've been using this in presentations over the last 2 weeks to explain to people that IT is complicated. There's a lot of people out there trying to make IT sound like it's easy and this one guy knows everything. IT is complicated. And this sheet gives you a quick snapshot of a fair amount of the components of IT management and governance. It's actually called the IT Management and Governance Framework. And on the back of it is the amount of research that's available out there. Now, of course, a lot of this research and content we can discuss because we're partners with Infotech Research Group. So there's one of this for everybody outside, so please make sure you grab it before you go. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking these wonderful folks on the stage.